Mike McConville here one more time for String Tech Workstations. This Taylor guitar came in when the customer brought it in. He had sort of complained of it buzzing and stuff, and said he needed a fret job. And upon initial inspection, I looked at the frets and I thought, well, there's a little bit of wear, you know, sort of the first 4 or 5 frets. I suggested, you know, a partial refret, maybe the first 4 or 5 frets, which you've seen me do lots of times on my channel. But as I got into this guitar, we did have that proverbial sort of ski jump at the neck junction, which in the case of the Taylor guitars, it's not that big of a deal. We removed the neck, and on the radius sander, which you've seen multiple times, I took that shim down underneath the fingerboard extension. That took care of that. So when I went to adjust the truss rod, this is loosened right off, no tension. Well, we got a problem, Houston. This is where the buzzing problem was coming from. When I put that 6-inch straight edge on there, so what's happening is the neck is actually going in a bit of a back bow. And the action was hiked up so high on this guitar, and it was probably, you know, to avoid this problem, which is this back bow. I've already adjusted this shim and got the neck angle we want. It is this shim here that needs to be taken down a little bit more. And for that, you guessed it, we're back to the radius sander. So we are going to take that down just a little bit more. And that's all it needs. I have showed this in tons of other videos, but this is what we have. So this is the shim that we just took down, and that kind of pulls the fingerboard extension down tight so that it's in line with the trajectory of the string path from the nut to the last fret. And this is the other shim. Now this one we've already adjusted. If you look at this end, you can see that this tip is much thinner than here. So that has allowed us to tilt the neck back and get the action where we need to get it. We will put that back together and quickly check it again. So we've got all the right angles. So one more tip about these labels that they put on the head block. I just peeled it from the top down, and I have that painter's tape, which is a low tack, to kind of hold it down out of the way while we're working. You don't want that label to let go completely because it's almost impossible to line it up again a second time. So this way, when it's all done, we just fold it up and it lines up perfectly like it was put on in the factory. We have averted the need to pull the frets and level the fingerboard, which will save the customer a fortune. He was really looking at getting a fret similar to the standard Martin fret, and these ones, once they're leveled, recrowned and polished, will be essentially the same height as the standard Martin fret. So we got this one high spot here, just sort of breeze over that very lightly. And again, as you heard me say a few hundred times, we move obliquely over that fingerboard radius to guarantee that we're not upsetting the natural radius of the fingerboard. And I kind of cross hatch, come in the opposite direction, same thing, moving obliquely and keeping the file in line with the string path. So we're not turning the file. We want to make sure that we keep it in line with the string path. There's a couple of high spots up here. Yeah, no more ticking now. So this 6-inch is a good length to kind of check the neck in sections, and we are good right to the last fret. You can see how much we move those middle 2 strings forward. So I'm using the sander to trim this back. So these are the three stages of adjustment. This is the original Taylor saddle. The D and the G were well flat. The B, there was lots of room on the saddle to actually move it. It wasn't an issue. So the B still falls within the confines of the original bridge slot. The D and the G, however, needed to be cantilevered. That was our first attempt at the blank, when we had that initial elliptical curve at the leading edge of the saddle. This is the final intonation, all 6 strings, all the way across, 7th fret, and its corresponding octave on all 6 strings perfectly in tune. Now we turn our attention to the nut. This is our very first read on the stock nut. Now we will start this process on the cantilevered compensated nut blank. This was the intonation on the original elliptical cut that I made of the new compensated nut blank. So these were the values that we had initially. This was the first time through, the first adjustment I made, and of course now it's perfect all the way across. So just before we get started, I'll bring you in for a final look at that compensation on the saddle. But we'll go through this tuning test. I figure I may as well just play it out here in the shop. Yeah, I can't plug it in, so we don't have to go into the studio. Okay, so here's a little thing in E major. It's one of the simplest tuning tests you can do. Baby finger on the first string. Move it up 2 frets. And then move it up to the 8th position for your G chord. Another tuning test I use is playing a 6th and then adding a 10th. Now if we're in the key of E minor, then all the open strings are available. So you can come up with some pretty interesting arpeggios just so again. So the group of strings that I'm using are the 5th, the 3rd, and the 2nd. Obviously you can end in G as well, or E minor, relative minor. Now if I go up to the top group of strings, I'm using the index finger, 2nd finger, and 4th finger. I don't employ the 3rd finger at all. So I'm just sliding along those strings and playing diatonically in the key of G or E minor. If we continue down. For myself, another sort of testament to the accuracy of the tuning across the entire span of the neck is playing those very close intervals like a ninth. I've got three groups of strings that I use. The fourth string, the second string, and the first string. And the middle group of strings, which would be fifth, fourth, and second. And then lastly, the third group is the sixth string, the fourth string, and the third string. Videos. The other thing that I'll practice is sort of spreading a melody line off of one of those voices. Or, if I'm going to manipulate the bass voice, or I could spread a melody off the middle voice. In the case of the bass strings, it's just an interesting way to sort of explore the guitar in a harmonic and melodic sense. The other thing I'll do to sort of verify the calibration of the guitar is to play the same chord. So G, 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 G. Or C, F, E, G, so when the guitar is calibrated like this, it's not just that it plays perfectly in tune, but the other thing is it plays much more smoothly. When this guitar arrived, you needed a vice grip for a left hand to play chords on it. Now, it's not too close because Rob likes to dig in, like, and strum hard. So I've left it, you know, high enough that you can do that without any buzzing problems. But it's just really nice to play.